Well, many of you may not hope, you hope that your records are lost, but we hope that the SBA took control of this data so they can actually manage these 4 million loans with a value of nearly $400 billion, half a trillion dollars. Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. I hope you're doing well. A major new report is out from the SBA Inspector General, a report that affects the millions of EIDL loan and EIDL grant borrowers. Imagine a world where the SBA didn't know who they gave grants to and who they gave loans to and had no way of following up with you to ensure that you pay back those loans. This is what's been raised in this report. This is a really major report. So I'm going to go through it here and what's happened with the data so far when the SBA had to switch from its service provider to storing the data itself. I'm going to get into that. Be sure to watch until the end. I'm also going to give 2 funding tips at the end of this video. As always, thanks so much for subscribing, turning on alerts, and liking this video, and would love to hear your comments today. 4 million folks in the US got EIDL loans, over 10 million folks got EIDL grants. This report affects all of those people. So let's get into it. Here's the report dated July 19th from Hannibal Mike Ware to Administrator Guzman of the SBA. As the SBA shifts its focus from processing applications to servicing and overseeing COVID EIDL loans and advances, SBA is migrating data from its SaaS provider, software as a service provider, to its own data warehouse and systems. This is a huge deal. All of those records they need to take control of, not only store, but make it so they're usable. So again, they can continue to service these loans, AKA make sure borrowers pay these back. If not, seek enforcement. Well, it turns out that management did not follow the policies when it began migrating this data from the service provider's cloud platform to the SBA's data warehouse. So all those records, management wasn't following policies. They had to start doing this here circled when the contract ended on June 30th, 2022. So we're a few weeks in. So basically when that contract ended, the contractor was told they have to destroy the data. So we hope, well, many of you may not hope, you hope that your records are lost, but we hope that the SBA took control of this data so they can actually manage these 4 million loans with a value of nearly $400 billion, half a trillion dollars. Also in the intro, the SBA must continue to take action to ensure it has accurate, available, and usable data. As I mentioned, we're talking about $385 billion. So as some of the background here, here's why this is so important. These are 30-year loans with a 2.5-year deferment period. So many folks need to start paying back loans in November and December. By the way, we're going to be helping folks with that. And as always, if you want funding help, I'll just give a quick plug now. Go to our website, helloskip.com/join, choose VIP, or if you want to talk to me, choose Platinum. We absolutely would love to help you fund and grow your business. Been able to help tens of thousands of folks directly. So I'll leave that link below, but here's the point. The SBA is required to not only maintain records for this full 30-year period, but also for 6 years and 3 months after maturity. So basically, the SBA is going to need this data until around 2060. So, right, some loans could have been originated for the first time in 2022. Add 30 years to that, we're in 2052. Add on 6 years, we're in 2058. This data is going to need to be not only there, but also usable. And the same record retention timeline is required for the COVID EIDL advances. So they need to know of those 10 million folks that got 1K, 2K. Maybe you were successful with the targeted 10K or even the supplemental up to 15K. I know a lot of you weren't. If you want to talk about missing out on those advances, drop it in the comments. I know it's a sore spot for many of you. The point is, these records are going to be around for a long, long time, and mistakes have already been made. Underlined here, because the agency did not have a plan in advance, agency officials were reactionary in their approach to transferring the data from the service provider prior to the contract ending June 30th. Now, I get a lot was happening in April and May. There was the final push to get EIDL loans approved. Money was winding down. We had this countdown timer. on the Skip website. So there were a lot of things happening. Still, I'm not making excuses for this large organization, but what happened was they had to hastily develop solutions before the contractor destroyed the data. Can you imagine if the contractor said, sorry, you didn't get the data, we put it on a thumb drive? By the way, a lot of this data is already out there. If you Google EIDL recipients, we are the second result underneath the SBA. So we have a post on how to look up not only your EIDL grants, but also your EIDL loans, and how to check who's also received PPP loans. So you can do that search here or go to helloskip.com/EIDL-data. Again, the largest lookup in the country, and you can put in your business name, search by name, location, zip, so you can see what data is out there about your business. Haven't talked about this in a while, but hugely popular. You can also then claim your business. What that does is it links it to your Skip account, and we're going to help with tracking in the future. By the way, regarding payment, you can go to EIDLpay.com to find out more about how to make those payments. But back to the report, it gets into the system development methodology and the framework for planning, managing, and overseeing SBA's IT projects. So it gives a few tips there. SBA chose to rely on row counts provided by the contractor as a general way of reconciling data transfer. So basically, okay, we've got 5 million in this file. Let's make sure we get the 5 million over here, right? So it's a very cursory kind of like transferring from one Google Sheet to another Google Sheet type exercise. Not very robust. We would expect a bit more from the federal government. So without defined criteria, SBA cannot assure it has taken adequate steps to preserve the COVID-19 EIDL data. Again, a lot of this data is out there on the web, but the point is to make sure it's maintainable over time. There are a lot of loan updates. What if you have the old records? Here's a case that could potentially happen. Someone got a $150K loan back in 2020 or 2021, increased it to 500, then maybe got the full 2 million. If the SBA is not managing those records well, they might just say, oh, we only thought we gave you 150K instead of 2 million. So obviously a huge deal. There's no sign that that's actually happened, but this could potentially be a problem when you're working with different data sets. You had 150K originally, then the person got 2 million and you're trying to merge and you don't merge the records correctly. So here's the conclusion. As SBA shifts from reviewing applications to servicing loans and grants, the potential for identifying additional fraudulent loans increases significantly as borrowers default. There's going to be a lot of defaults, no doubt about it. The ability to recover funds and prosecute fraud relies on having continued access to loan and grant data, especially regarding evidential matter for audits and investigations. Hugely important here, the accuracy of the data. You can also imagine if some of these go to trial or court, someone arguing that the data is wrong or the data wasn't accurate, and maybe pointing out some mistakes in the system and how the SBA has handled this data. So these are all real scenarios. It's a huge deal. Like I said, can you imagine a world where the SBA can't accurately track this $400 billion and get people to repay? So far today, the SBA Inspector General has found $84.3 billion of potentially fraudulent COVID-19 EIDL loans. There's also 1.5 million complaints of identity theft. By the way, even if you didn't receive an EIDL loan or grant, it's probably worth checking the records here. In a lot of cases, people stole identity. So if you find, hey, your name's on this list, but you actually didn't take out a loan, you should report that to the SBA Inspector General. So before I give the final recommendations from this report, 2 quick things: funding help, growth help. We are now helping businesses throughout their entire life cycle. You can think of us as your business and funding coach. Go to our website if you want to learn more, or use the link in the description to book a time. We have a limited capacity to help. And by the way, for anyone who becomes a member, premium, VIP, or platinum, you get access to exclusive weekly webinars, not only with myself, but our team of experts and outside guests. So for example, today we have an exclusive session on new grants and funding, and we're answering a lot of your questions. Next Wednesday, we're talking about SBA loans and tips, including SBA 7(a) tips, how to apply successfully, what are some good lenders there. Beginning of August, we have tips to getting funding ready and improving your credit. A lot of you aren't ready to get some of those larger loans or grants. So how do you get ready to get that funding? And August 10th, how to acquire customers, build your website, marketing tips. So those are just the next 4. We've got others on private funding options and overlooked government funding options. So exclusive weekly webinars. If you want access to that, go to helloskip.com/join and choose one of the options there, and you'll have access to all of those recordings as well. And finally, because we have a lot of great funding partners, many of you have successfully gotten lines of credit and term loans through some of our great partners. Just a shout out today to Bluevine. If you want a line of credit, go to bluevine.com/skip or use the link right below. That's even better. But credit lines up to $250K. So you're basically approved for that line, potentially up to $250,000, and you don't get interest until you draw on that funding. So again, it's a good backup plan. Rates as low as 4.8%. Decisions are quick. So bluevine.com/skip. Better yet, just use the link below. Part of the effort of diversifying your options. We can help you with SBA 7A. We can help you explore private options. We can help you explore grants. I always like to say, keep your options open. Okay, to wrap on the report, suggested actions are to design and implement a comprehensive migration plan for the EIDL program, basically to give confidence that the SBA has control of this data, they know what they're doing, and they can control the data until 2060, as in they have the long-term plan in mind, and it meets the needs of all stakeholders. Would love to hear what you think about this report today. It's a big one. I was waiting for a new report from the Inspector General because I love reading these. Does this affect you? Drop it in the comments. Most importantly, thanks for tuning in and subscribing and liking this video. Stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.